Okay, hello everybody. I'm Helen and I teach at the Dorothy Benson Senior Center. And we're continuing our making box series. And our first box was that instant box, and I did carve this. And this one has feet. Okay. All right. And one of the things you need to do is when your piece is leather hard or even drier, take out a dry sponge, squeezed out, just wet it and squeeze it out really good. And then it becomes like sandpaper. And you want to smooth out your piece as much as possible like that. Okay. And then the second box we made was the one with the lid. Here is my version of the lid. I did heavily carve this. And remember, I said that you need to kind of have notches or an uneven lid so it doesn't slide off. And usually 3 notches is good. This one is 4, but it's not like completely facing each other. So here is my lidded box. I did heavily carve it, and I'm still carving it. And you want to thin it out on the inside if it's gotten a little bit too thick, okay? I didn't thin it out until I finished carving because I carved deeply in some areas and I didn't want to punch through. So this one's heavily carved and it was cleaned up with the squeezed out sponge, but I do need to do some more cleaning, okay? So we'll put this aside. And then today we're going to do the traditional way of making a box, and that is cutting out, rolling out slabs and letting them dry leather hard, and then we'll put them together. So let me put this away. Okay, and we always want to dry our pieces very slowly. And in the beginning, you want to dry them covered up, okay? So now we're going to do the traditional way, and I had this way takes time because you need to roll out the slabs and slowly dry them over a period of days. So this one I had to keep, I did cover it and I did put a board over it so it won't warp, but I had to keep flipping it over. And at one point when it was stiff enough, I took this tool and what it does is it gives me a 45-degree cut, okay? So I sliced, this will be my bottom piece. So all 4 sides got cut at a 45-degree angle. These are my side pieces, and 3 sides were cut at a 45-degree angle. So when I put these together, they should fit precisely, all right? But first I need to clean it up. So I will take my squeezed out sponge here, and we will clean the edges pretty good. Okay, get rid of some of the burrs, smooth it out a little bit. I did make slip because we need this slip to glue these together. And one of the things you need to do is have some cans or something ready to support your pieces while you're standing them up and building them together, putting them together. Okay. So we'll just get rid of some of the burrs. And if you want, you can clean the inside to smooth out the inside and the outside. Now, this is a good technique if you decide to emboss or imprint the outside. You can even pierce, and you can put your piece together. And if we did it the other way, the wet, soft clay method, when you emboss, it'd be hard to do because you've got your box built up and you're trying to stamp it or something. It's a little bit tricky, okay? This way you can like go ahead and stamp everything if you want, but let it, slowly dry and keep flipping it over and everything. And my bottom has already warped a little bit. This method is really nice if you want to make different kinds of shapes, because that other method where we had that pattern, the template, you're kind of limited to squares and rectangles or triangles or something. But if you had an odd shape, this method is pretty good. So this is my bottom piece, and it's beveled on all four sides. Now I just need to score it. So let me wet it really good first. And it's pretty leather hard here. It's a little bit before leather hard. And I'll score it pretty good on all four sides. And if you have a scoring tool like this, it's very convenient because it has 4 needles instead of that pin tool. You might not be able to use a fork in this method because the tines of the fork are pretty big. This is more of a sharp needle tool. Okay, so I've scored all 4 sides. It is kind of warping here. This is going to be the top. It's not beveled. So I will put this together, but first I need to score these sides too. I'm gonna wet it a little bit. You want to score it pretty deep if you can. Well, it's not that deep, but. So this is going to go here, all right? Actually, I'll put it here. And I made some slip, and slip is just clay with a lot of water added to it. So it's kind of like slurry. Actually, I need to do this on a tile. We always want to put some kind of barrier between your surface and your clay. Okay, so that's where I put the slip. And I probably should put some on this part too. Okay. And gently, gently press it. Actually, I'm going to put this on. Turntable so you can see better. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. So because the clay is stiff, it kind of stands up on its own. Okay, now I'm going to put probably this wall. So this guy's already scored. I'm going to score him on all 3 sides. I need to wet it to soften the clay a little bit. Now, if you wanted to make a lid, you can go ahead and make a lid, but the lid, you can either make it with a flange on it, so it fits the box, or you could just cover up the top of the box, and then it'll be hard to cut it open because this is pretty hard. So I would just make a separate lid. But you'll have to make a little flange on it or else it'll fall off. Okay, so, oops. Okay, so I needed to put slip on this side too. Now, if you were making a bigger box, you would need to have like cans or something to support it while you build it. This one's holding up by itself because Yeah, I put the slip all over. Okay. Okay, now it's supposed to fit, okay? And gently press it. Just gently, just kind of rubbing that corner. And what I'll do is, let's see. So I've got two sides now. And then we'll put this guy on here. Let it again. For it. Then we'll put slip on it again. I'm using a brush to paint slip on because it's just easier to apply the slip. The brush is probably a bristle brush and it's pretty stiff. You don't have to use an expensive brush. Okay, we'll put this guy back on. So you can make complicated angled pieces with this method. You just have to make a paper pattern. Actually, something like manila folder would make a better pattern. And test out your construction first, like make sure your design comes together before you cut out your clay and before you let the clay dry leather hard. Squeeze this together. So because the clay is pretty dry, you're not making fingerprints or something. Okay, the last piece. Oh, I gotta clean up the inside. It's easier to clean up the inside as you go along. Especially on a small piece like this, I can't get my hand in there. If you have a small piece and you can't get your hand in there, you can take like a stick, like a chopstick, and wrap fabric or sponge, with a rubber band, and that will help you clean up your piece. Okay, last one. because these are, because they're beveled at 45-degree angles, it's supposed to fit perfectly. Sometimes it can go askew, so you just kind of have to eyeball it. And this one kind of looks kind of slanted. Okay, you want to like gently push and make sure all the seams are stuck on there real good. If you push too hard, it's going to slide right off, so be careful. Okay. So I've got all four sides together, and this one's kind of popping up. Now I'm going to kind of clean up the edges with a straight edge like this. You gotta be gentle here. Okay. So with this method, you can make enormously large pieces. I have made a huge planter for like a tropical plant, and it was 5-sided, and it was about 2 feet tall and pretty wide. You know, you just need a lot of space, and keep an eye on your slabs and make sure they are drying very slowly. And then when you put them together on something that large, I did need supports, okay, to support it while I was building it. It's not that hard. You just need a lot of space and time and patience. Okay, so basically right now it's made, put together. It looks slanted to me, but it's probably, maybe my base was a little bit off or something. Try to. Sometimes I think my table might be off too. Should be okay. So that's a pretty clean, precise box, and I can clean that up later once I know that this is on here really good. So here I am taking out the squeezed out sponge and cleaning this up, sanding and smoothing the edges. Now this leather hard piece is a little bit too hard to do any kind of piercing or stamping. You can probably do carving on it, but you want to kind of wrap it up real tight and take your time getting it to dry. So sometimes I feel like I need to reinforce the corners with just a tiny bit of clay, but because this is such a small piece, I'm not going to do that. But if I had a larger, if I was making a larger box, I'm going to want to reinforce it, just so it won't, you know, just to give it some safety measure there, so it won't come apart. Okay. Kind of, if I had a little level, I can figure out this is, now my surface might be not level, so I can't really tell if it's straight up and down or what. Okay, I think it's okay. Okay, so right now it looks messy and everything, but as it slowly dries, I can go back and keep cleaning it, keep smoothing it. And one of the things I want to do is kind of clean the bottom here. Okay, yeah. Yeah, you need to clean the bottom because there is a seam there. So when you make something like this, plan on rolling out the slab and giving yourself about 2, and if it's a large piece, maybe even 3 days. Also, to slowly dry it out to almost leather hard. Actually, you probably need it leather hard. Keep checking it, keep flipping it over. At some point, you may need to bevel the edges. Now, if I was making a 5-sided thing, I don't think it's exactly a 45-degree angle cut I would make. This gadget, I don't know if you can see the little wire. So this is not, I don't think that's a 45-degree, yeah. So that's a different angle right here, okay? So that would be a different angle, well, you can't see that. I believe if you, I don't know if that's the same angle, I think that's different, it's a tighter angle, yeah. This one, this part, and the corners are the same angle, degrees. So on the 5-sided one, I really don't know what the angle is. When I made my huge 5-sided planter, I did not figure out the angle I needed to cut it. I just kind of eyeballed it. And because it was such a large piece, I did have to put a coil on the inside seam to reinforce it. So I guess that's why I didn't need to worry about the angle so much, but I just kind of guessed it. Okay, let me clean that up. Now this one, I think I'm going to kind of bevel it just ever so slightly. And that way it won't look like it's stuck to the table surface if it sits on a table surface. If this isn't going to go in the dishwasher or anything, I could, once it's fired, I could put little felt feet on it or cover the bottom in felt, okay, if it's not going to contain water or anything. If you glaze it on the inside, you know, it depends. If you do a mid-fire glaze or high fire, it won't leak water. Low fire, it might slowly seep out. So this is high fire clay. So I wouldn't have to worry about the water seeping out, okay? So I kind of smoothed and rounded the edges so that just ever so slightly, so it won't look like it's stuck. And while I'm at it, I'm just gonna kind of soften the edge corners. Okay, so basically that's done. And like I said, because it's a small piece, I didn't reinforce the inside seams. And this is a little bit off here. I wonder if I can carve it off with this. I don't think I can do this. That's good. I can straighten this out with a rasp, which I don't have right now on me, instead of trying to cut it off. And the rasp is it looks kind of like a cheese grater. You just kind of shave off some of your clay. I'm just going to use this guy. Okay. And you want to kind of smooth off any sharp edges because sharp edges tend to chip off if something bumps into it. So with clay, you kind of want to smooth your sharp edges. Okay, it looks still kind of slanted. It could be that my base wasn't straight. Okay, if you have a piece that's kind of like a little bit wonky-ish, if you carve the heck out of it, usually it's not noticeable. Okay, so it's leather hard, it's pretty good. I'm going to have to wrap it and let it dry slowly, but at this point, I actually can carve into it because if I wait any longer, it's probably going to be too dry. So let me find a carving tool and we'll carve some designs into it, okay? Let's see. I think I'm going to use this guy. This piece is about 1/4 of an inch thick. So when I carve, I can't go that deep, you know. And then when I carve, I'm going to get these burrs. And so I'll have to let it dry a little bit before I take the burrs off. Okay. If you want, you can sketch out your what you're going to carve with a, a pencil, lightly with a pencil. Don't worry about any pencil marks because the graphite burns out. But I'm just going to freehand it and let's see if we can see this better. See it better this way. Okay. Now my corners are probably going to be wetter or softer than the surface because of the slip. So I need to be careful when I approach the corners. Let's see. Yeah. So as you can see, I've got a lot of birds. And what I'm going to do is leave those alone until it dries out just a little bit more and I can clean them off and I can soften the carving a little bit with a squeezed out sponge, okay? So I'll keep carving here. I'm not carving the corners. If I wanted to, I'm going to let the corners get a little bit dry if I want to carve the corners. So I did a little bit of carving there. Okay, I think I'll go over, do a little bit more here. And when you carve, you kind of don't want to do like this kind of movement. You kind of want to do it, if you can, one long stroke. Okay, and if you just kind of slowly approach it and then carve, okay? That'll keep you from having to clean it up, and it'll be a smoother design. And go slowly so you don't slip and take out a chunk somewhere. I'm also going to take some of this slip, and hopefully it gets a little bit thicker as it dries out. And I'm going to keep brushing it on the seams just to fill in any spaces I might have. And you want to do this when your clay is still in the leather hard stage. Okay. It's carving here. So be careful you don't put too much pressure on your piece while you're carving. Okay, it looks like this clay had grog in it. Just ran into a big chunk of fired clay right there. It's kind of gritty. Okay, so what grog is fired clay that's been ground up real fine, and that's added to some clay bodies to make it stronger, especially when you're hand building. If you want to throw clay, you don't have to worry about this, keeping it from collapsing or anything, because the walls are even and everything. And if you throw with clay that has grog in it, it's kind of rough on your hands. So usually grog clay is for hand building. It helps with hand building. So, and this looks like grog, clay with grog in it. Okay, so I've got that so far. And this is my first pass, and I'll probably go back and define some parts. And of course, I have to clean up the burrs. I'm kind of looking at this at a strange angle, so I'm not quite sure what I'm carving here. We'll see what it happens. And I don't like it if it's not like a nice curve right there, so I'll fix that very slowly. Okay. when I go back, what I'm going to do is define these places where I started. I'm just going to dig in, just to, I think visually it'd be nicer there. I hit another grog piece right there. There's a lot of grog in this thing. And this is clay I purchased from Davins, and I'm trying a new type of clay. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I don't like that curve right there. I'm gonna fix it. Okay, so I have all four sides carved. Let's see, I think I need to work on this a little bit. Check on everything. Okay, so we'll have to go back and refine everything. And like make my curves nicer. If I take a squeezed out sponge right now to clean it, the birds get stuck inside. So I'll wait until, I should wait until it is a little bit drier. And I can maybe with a stiff brush remove some of the birds. But it really needs to be dry. Okay, even if I remove the bird, most of the birds, most of the birds, it's still kind of messy. So when it's a little bit drier, I'll take out a squeezed out sponge and smooth out the design. And I might lose some of the definition. So what I have to do is go back over it. It's a lot of time spent cleaning it, touching it up, cleaning it. So I'll have to go back, and I think there's a piece of grog right there. And let it dry some more and go back and smooth it out with a sponge. Okay, so I think you get an idea of how we put this together. You can make some strange angular shapes. But like I said, you really need to map it out on a piece of paper and kind of put it together and use Scotch tape to kind of put it together, make sure everything works before you cut out your clay pieces. Okay, So I hope you got inspired and you'll try your hand at this. And like I said, piercing is going to be a bit challenging because it's leather hard and you're putting a lot of pressure on it, but carvings usually works. You might actually be able to attach things too. Just use a lot of slip and always dry these things covered up and slowly and monitor it every day. Okay, so we will see you next time. Thank you.